Let's take a little trip through some Western contours. There exists a threat, from anti-hunting groups to politicians trying to give our land away, and we won't stand for it. Those vast Western landscapes provide the space for our wildlife to thrive and a place for hunters and anglers to fuel the fire that sparks their soul. In this show, we share our love of hunting, fishing, and conservation. Here, we provide the foundation to meet these threats through passion and the grit of the American outdoorsman. Welcome to the Western Huntsman Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to episode number 48. This is Jim Huntsman, your host of the Western Huntsman Podcast, coming at you from the Broken Time Studio in Hayden, Idaho. Thank you so much for tuning in. Glad you guys are here. Glad you guys are hanging in there. Here we are into December of 2020, and we are just rolling right along. I got a freaking awesome conversation lined up for you guys today with a guy that despite my best efforts, I'm having a really tough time pronouncing his last name. I even texted him, and I'm like, hey, how do you pronounce your last name? You know, thinking he'd send me this video file, or not a video, an audio file, how he says it. And he did. But it didn't come through very good. And so I was still having a hard time hearing it. And then it disappeared. I think that when you send it through an iPhone or something, it's like temporary, because then it took it away. But I'm going to give it hell. And I'm going to really try to pronounce his last name. So check it out. Here we go. His name is Guy Dupontier. All right. I think it's French. And I think I pronounced it as close to accurate as I possibly can. So, Guy, I need you to text me and let me know if this even came through right, because that is a tough last name, brother. If it weren't for your difficult last name to pronounce, you'd be the perfect guest on this show. So, all right, guys. This conversation, we're going to get right into it, actually, because it was a long conversation, and I think you guys are really going to like it. Guy has his own podcast called Western Contours, and you can find it anywhere podcasts can be found, and it's worth checking out. Follow him on Instagram. Check him out on Facebook. I really, really enjoyed this conversation with Guy. Just as a heads up, I think that it was kind of storming at my place when we recorded, so some of the audio is a little bit messed up, but it's definitely not the worst audio I've ever heard. But it's certainly not the best audio, so bear with me on that. But it's a great conversation. We hit on all sorts of topics, from talking smack about skinny jeans to hunting in California to, well, you're just going to have to wait and listen. So just a quick announcement I wanted to throw out there before we get into it with Guy is I'm pretty excited, and I'm very honored to have been selected for the Initial Ascent, basically the traveling pack. And this traveling pack is this thing that they do where they're sending around one of their 4K packs and for a month, basically, to a new hunter, and the hunter gets to keep it for like a month or whatever, for whatever hunt they're going on, and take it out, and you got to write your name in it and document your trip and like keep this journal thing and take pictures and all this cool stuff. The Brotherhood of the Traveling Pack with Initial Ascent. So I've got it for December 2020, and I feel like it put a lot of pressure on me for my late season archery hunt I got coming up here next week. But at the same time, I'm thrilled that they chose me, and I'm looking forward to hopefully representing the pack well. I'm really excited to try this pack out. It's a pack I've been talking about it for a long time, and it's a great pack, and so I'm super excited to do this. So shout out to my guys, my friends over at Initial Ascent, and this is going to be a heck of an adventure. It's gonna be going on an archery elk hunt, and it is going to be going on a wolf hunt during the month of September, and then I'm going to be sending it on to the next brother in the line of the Brotherhood of the Traveling Pack. I almost said pants, because I was thinking, you guys seen the show, your wives may have made you watch it, or maybe you made your husband watch it, the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Well, it's kind of a similar concept, and so it's a really cool idea. And I'm just cool, super excited to be a part of it, and I appreciate those guys over at Initial Ascent. So that said, also, That's right. I was just going to answer the trivia question from last week was whose name did I mispronounce? And those of you that wrote in, Stephen Ranella, you got it right. I mispronounced his name in last week's episode. If you're listening to this, Steve, dude, I apologize. I don't know what I was thinking. But I caught it, and I fessed up before you even heard it. So we're all good in the hood. That's how we roll. All right, guys, let's get into it with Guy. He is somebody that you guys. It's worth you guys checking him out and his show out. Just a stellar dude. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna have him back on, and hopefully he'll have me back on. But I feel like we are, have the ability to make it sound like we are just solving all sorts of the world's problems in it. And I always like conversations like that. They're just like, deep and philosophical, and we joke around a lot, and there's a lot of laughs in this episode. And he was just a lot of fun to get on. So without further ado, guys, let's get after it with Guy Duplantier at Western Contours. Here we go. Are you going to kick this off?
We're already recording, buddy. So I figured that'd be pretty funny. How did two podcasters we plan on, I guess, what is it, a podcast, dual podcast? I don't know.
A dual podcast? I don't know. It's telling me I need permission from you to record, though.
Okay, so you're going to record on Zoom? It's not asking me. Either way, I mean,
we're peas in a pod.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll send you the file because it's not asking me anything.
Okay.
Record. Yeah, I could just say I'll send you the file.
Perfect. That'll work.
That'll ease some of our pain.
Probably turn out a little better then that way.
Yeah, I think the Zoom is great as a medium, but I prefer to run this thing into Audition and do what I do, Yeah. And I exactly. And Zoom has been great for me, but I noticed like with this Squadcast thing, it gives you two separate MP3 files, and I load them in Audacity and it lines them up perfectly. And so if like my guest is quiet, I can adjust their level without messing with mine. And there's like less cutting out and all that kind of stuff. So it's been great, other than it doesn't work with iOS stuff yet. Yeah. So hopefully they're going to change that. That's the message that they kept sending me. And like I told you, everything I have is Apple based. So, but that's the reason I use Audition. The same reason you use Audacity is so you can have those dual tracks.
Yeah. Exactly.
For a better sounding podcast. Sure. So I guess I'll kick it off on my end, man. I'm on with Jim Huntsman. Western Huntsman podcast.
Yeah,
what's up, brother?
Good to be here, man. I'm really excited about this one. This is going to be cool, and it's always fun when I'm talking to like somebody who's doing what I'm doing, another hunting podcaster, guy after my own heart, right there. And the guy, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Same. And that's echoes from my end, man. It'll be cool. We better preface it, man. This is there's no script, there's no bullets, there's no anything. We're like, just get on and shoot the mess about podcasting and hunting and see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have no plans. I have no plans on this. I am just here, and we're gonna. I imagine two guys that like to get behind a microphone and gab, we'll never run out of stuff to talk about. So I think we're in good shape.
It could get scary. It could get scary. Some people might crash their vehicles, man, listening and driving,
Make sure you hold over before you're listening to this.
Yeah. We apologize if we either drag on or put you to sleep, one or the other.
So, Guy, where are you at? I know you're in California, but I actually don't know where you're at in California.
So I am just outside of LA. I border Orange County, just north of Long Beach, in a little blue collar town of Lakewood.
Oh, cool. How long have you been there?
My entire life, bud.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, and that make sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think we got a little bit of a delay, but we'll work with it here. I've been curious about this with you for a long time because I've kind of ragged on California a few times on my show, and
I rag on California.
I know you do. I've heard you. And so I've been curious, like, what is it like being a Californian and a hunter, and like kind of walk us. What does that look like?
You know, it really depends on your level of giving a shit. You know what I mean? I don't know how you are about language. I've heard you go a couple times, but I got to watch my mouth sometimes. But it really depends on, you know, how much you give a crap about that opinion. You know, and I will say that talking to the amount of people that I talk to via the podcast and social and things like that, is I think the portrayal of California, even from some of the other, you know, we'll call it blue states or liberal states, the portrayal is of this madhouse of, you know, libertarianism, and then you can't even breathe. And that's really not the case. It is phenomenal to realize that you can hunt within 20 minutes of, you know, downtown Los Angeles, and people don't get it. But all in all, you could be in a room of 10 people and you would never know that 9 of those other people are hunters. There's not a people that, like to have the conversation or announce it, because of the mindset. And it's not so much anti-hunting as it is not understanding that the opportunity is in front of them or being exposed to it. If you look at the LA basin, I mean, it is, I'm going to call it 85 to 90% urban. You know, folks will be in the mountains here and not even realize that there's deer. So, you know, outside of that, man, you know, again, do you really care about that opinion? I mean, the biggest thing for me is making sure that I share it in a light that isn't a detriment to our demographic. But besides that, man, you know, you got to care about that opinion before you know what I mean? Yeah,
for sure. It's interesting how you said that. Like the maybe the perceptions of people that don't live in California are a little off base, because like guys like me, sometimes we sit here thinking that, man, what is it when you're living in California, hunting aside, do you have to like be careful when you go to the grocery store about what gender you call somebody and like what law you might break and stuff like that? You know what I mean? It seems right. Like that. I think the media has a lot to do with that.
You know, it's funny because, you know, with this last week and a half, right? I mean, it's 2020, it's COVID, right? The year of rhetoric, I like to call it at this point.
Yeah.
You know, I had people going, "Oh God, you guys are on lockdown again." And I'm like, well, that's news to me, buddy, because I'm in, you know, probably the worst county with all of that. And I haven't felt any recent lockdown. So it's really odd, the portrayal. As far as the other part of your inquiry there, I gotta wonder when I go to the store sometimes. You look around, you go, "Oh man, hey dude, you might have, you know, get a yeast infection or something. Them jeans are a little bit tight, buddy." So
yeast infection, even. Yeah, no, it's a perception one, thing, man. It is because I have a friend that I grew up with that moved to West Hollywood, and he's so extreme left. Like our radars wouldn't even connect in outer space. Like he's just super uber liberal kind of dude.
Right.
And so I think that's part of my perception too. And it kind of, some of that saddens me too, because California would be a kick-ass hunting state. Like there is some good hunting in California.
And I think people miss the mark on it.
Way underrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're way underrated, man. The opportunity, think about it, right? And I say it all the time. This is the only place in the world where you can come hunt a Thule elk.
Yeah.
We have phenomenal mule deer populations and great class of bucks. If you look at our A zone is a over the counter tag that starts in, usually in July and runs all the way through October. You start off in archery. You can go into rifle on one tag. You're not having to pick a weapon. So if you fail on archery, you could, take your rifle out and hunt with your rifle. And it's close to a third of the balance of the state. I mean, you're talking from the 5 freeway all the way to the coast, from basically the LA County Ventura line plus or minus all the way up just shy of the Bay Area. I mean, this is a huge zone.
Yeah, that is a huge zone.
Ample opportunity, huge opportunity in it, man.
Is there non-resident tags available for that over the counter?
Oh yeah, it's over the counter.
I wonder what,
over the counter.
I mean, look at
cost. The pig. It's fairly inexpensive for that tag and a non-resident. I want to say that it's and please don't, people don't crucify me if I'm wrong. It's less than $400 or right in that zone.
Gotcha. I'm going to look into that, man.
If you can hunt, if you can hunt from, starting in July, it's miserable, right? Because, if you're coastal, it's not as bad, right? You're looking at 70s to maybe 90s. The area I hunt, we're over 100, 110, 115 degrees out there, that it's an 8-week archery season.
Wow.
So you're out there, melting away. But all those perceptions aren't wrong. I'll give you that, right? Because there is a level of, lack of a better word, extremist when it comes to the liberal mindset. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that most folks realize how heavily influenced they've been. But I have seen in the last year, quite a bit of turn to a conservative mindset, like what are they really doing now? And it's starting to become more and more prevalent, which is nice for a, non-liberal guy.
Well, and like for me, I could care less about Republican versus Democrat. I really could care less about that. What I care about is when it's like this fanatical extreme version of liberalism. And because they're so in your face with everything, and you know what I mean? And so, but I want to look into that tag you were talking about, because that I could it'd probably be fair to say that I could leave the wife and kids in a hotel near Disneyland and let them have a ball and I can go hunt, right?
Yeah, well, okay, so you could, but it's going to be a little bit of a drive, right? So Disneyland is just outside of LA, which is Southern California. So you're looking at probably a 2-hour drive from Disneyland to get into A Zone. It's not a bad drive.
Okay. Well, I'll just leave them in a hotel and go camp on the road somewhere.
Yeah, and the plus is, so you come down here with that tag, and a lot of that zone, there's opportunity for pig as well. So you get, you kill 2 birds with one stone. Grab that pig tag, because who doesn't want to hunt, pig?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, a little difficult in a lot of the public land areas, but I've seen better numbers in the last year than I've seen in probably 5 or 6 years.
What are the crowds like? What's the hunting pressure look like?
It really depends on where you go, man. That's one of the reasons I like to go to my little inland spot, because of the heat. Keeps everybody at bay until rifle season. So, we'll be out every weekend. It's a weekend hunt thing for us for that. I spend my time, for elk as far as taking off of work and whatnot. So we'll be out every weekend, and we may run into 3 or 4 different hunters. This year, we didn't see anyone else. Last year, I want to say we saw 2 guys in that area that we're in. And most people don't come back. 115 degrees. It's 100 degrees in the morning at 9 a.m. It sucks.
Man, I'll bet taking care of your meat's a little interesting in that kind of situation.
It's a run. I mean, it's a run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that animal's down, you're boogieing, and it's scary. It's a little difficult, There's ways to deal with it, but you got a little bit of shade, but it's pretty sparse country.
Well, everywhere you hunt has its own unique challenge in one way or the other, whether it's the climate or distance or, terrain, whatever. So it's just take what you take,
Yep.
Cool.
I haven't lost one yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you shoot it and it's literally, get it back to the vehicle, get it on ice. And for me, it's a done hunt, right? We're just out of there. So you're booking it. But yeah, it's a phenomenal opportunity. That tag has beat my butt the last 3 years because I'm chasing a single buck, and it's so wide open country that, man, it's difficult to get on them. And they go bed on private, and yeah, but it's a fun hunt, man. It will test every bit of your mental.
I just think it'd be cool to be like, yeah, I've hunted California.
As long as you don't come in the tight pants and lose your Idahoan credibility, you're all right.
So I shouldn't wear any skinny jeans or anything like that.
You'd fit in just fine, man. Not sure I'd want to be around you, but.
So you spend a lot of time traveling out of California to hunt too, huh?
Yeah, this last couple of years, man, with, my daughter graduated college and my boys, in college now. So it's afforded me the time that I didn't have previously, right? They both were athletes, and I wasn't willing to sacrifice those moments for the pursuit of my passion. Of course, I'm more passionate about my children. So it was, weekend hunts. If I could get a week, I get a week. And once my boy said, yeah, I'm not going to play football anymore, I looked at the wife and I'm like, okay, this is what I said. When he's done, it's on. So nice. Man, I just been the last 3 years, I've just been going. This year was probably the longest I've had. Absolutely the longest I've had concurrently. And it's just going to escalate from there. Just the wife and I, man, it's something else. It's a lovely thing. Love my kids.
It really is, man.
Oh, brother.
It's that. It's one of those things. Like as hard as it can be sometimes to like get older and start accepting how old you're getting, kind of thing. Which is what I've been going through lately. But the benefits to that are, I find myself, and my kids are still at home, but they're not little babies anymore. And so I've got quite the range of all four of my daughters age wise. And so it's cool because I have a lot more time. I have a lot more of the financial side where I can spend more time in the woods and I could get tags that I wasn't able to get when I was younger. I don't have a $400 diaper bill every month. That kind of stuff. And so there's definitely perks to it.
Heck yeah. What ages are your girls?
I've got 9, 11, 19, and 22.
Whew.
Yeah.
So that was quite a gap there. Not back to back, but close enough to be back to back, a gap, and then back at it.
Yeah.
They any of them in the woods with you?
Yeah, my 9 and 11-year-old, they're way into it. My 19-year-old was, she was actually with me last year when I whacked that bull, and that was the first experience she'd ever had, and it was cool because I took the ivories and I had this really cool necklace made out of the ivories and gave it to her for Christmas last year, and she opened it and started crying. So it was like one of the best present reactions I've ever seen out of any of my kids. And so that was cool. That was way cool. And, but my girls, my younger two, which I call them my younger. So my older two, are basically out of the house. And I adopted them. And so they are now spreading their wings and making their way into the world, and they're not on the payroll anymore. So
yeah, right. That never stops.
It's been good for like 6 months or so. It's been pretty good. I haven't had to fork out any money. I'm with you though. I don't think that's going to last. So
it doesn't last.
Yeah. So, but my younger two, they got to experience their first hunt. Well, I say first hunt, first successful hunt. They actually got to see a deer go down about a week ago, and that was super special for me because they've been with me they helped me track an elk this last September for like 3.5 miles, and in some nasty country too. And they hung in there. And I never wanted to be one of those parents that like forces the hunting on them. But if they're interested, I'm gonna exploit their interest, and I'm gonna take them. So they've been really, really good so far.
Did you notice anything as your older girls got older? I'm always really curious, right, with the way that we're connected now. And I've talked to a couple people where, their kids have been around hunting, their entire life. And as they got older, because of that connection to the outside world, they didn't necessarily have a problem with it, to say that they were against it, but had some opinions of it that were kind of surprising to me, being raised in a hunting family.
I haven't noticed it if there has. I think that for them, it's just always been a part of our life. We've always had deer meat. Dad's always bringing home wild game and making a bloody mess in the shop and, whatever. And so it's just always been like a part of their life for all four of them. So my oldest, she's dating like this vegan dude. And I think that I'm sure that has created some issues, because, obviously I'm so into hunting, I do a podcast about it. And so, and
talk about it every day.
And so that's been an interesting dynamic. And so he's one of those dudes. He's like, we had a pizza with pepperoni on it, and he's taking a paper towel and dabbing the pepperoni juices off the top of the pizza because he doesn't want to have any kind of meat kind of thing. And that was super odd in my house. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was super odd, but whatever.
That would be a really interesting conversation, but I'm going to jab at you because you have an opinion of California, but here you are supporting a vegan with slices of pizza, buddy.
You got
Sounds
a point.
Like you've already got this. You already got the Birkenstocks and skinny jeans going up there.
Man, you're not kidding. It's kind of a fruity situation. I don't really know how to act around them at this point. And so I just try to, tread lightly or whatever, but it is what it is. There is a higher number of that age group, that kind of generation where they're into that shit, man.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to do is with my younger two, I don't want them to be, heavily exposed to that kind of stuff. I want them to see the circle of life in the woods and how this meat ends up in our freezer. And if they want to pursue it, then I'm going to exploit that and make sure they pursue it with us. But I don't want to force it either, because I don't want them to hate me for it, because my younger two, they're way into animals. They love animals. All animals are cute and they want to have every freaking pet you can think of. And so I was kind of concerned that they'd feel bad for the animal, but they were like ready to go again. They're like, okay, let's go get another deer. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. So,
and a lot of that, I think most hunters are enamored with most animals, right?
I agree. I am a huge animal lover.
Right. And I think that's the dilemma in most people's heads, right? Is how can you do that? If you love an animal, how can you do that? And it's that circle of life exposure that you're talking about. I would love to hear you talk to the boyfriend on an episode and just some, friendly banter back and forth and allow people to understand that have that perspective. So my wife walks in the other day. She goes, "You'd have been proud of me." And I said, "Well, what's up?" She goes, "Well, I had a conversation with her assistant, acting assistant, and he's a vegan, Birkenstocks, the whole nine."
Oh wow! What is this Birkenstocks you keep saying?
Oh, dude, just Google it. You'll laugh.
You're not going to pull that up right now.
They're the preferred sandal, in my opinion. It's really horrible. It's really horrible generalization of on my part, man.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I just pulled it up. Oh man, yeah, you wouldn't. You'd get your ass whooped wearing that around here.
You wouldn't wear those in camp, buddy.
No.
So she talks to him and explains the process to him. And his thing was factory farming, right? That's what he was opposed to. And it's funny, talking to her and listening to his perspective through her. Somehow the factory farming is tied into all meat.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
It doesn't matter if it's, free range or, we're out hunting. It's tied into it. So I was pretty proud. Well, I wasn't pretty proud. I was very proud of her for having that conversation as a non-hunter, having that conversation to a vegan non-hunter that has no clue. But I think, again, man, going back to it, you should have that conversation and see where that goes.
I'm certainly not opposed to that. And I think it'd be a tall order to try to get him on in particular, but I've actually put it out there that if there are people that are anti-hunting and vegans, because the one of the foundational bases of my show was to, put up more of an aggressive fight against this anti-hunting movement that comes out and tries to dictate to us what we can and can't do in our life. And so that's been part of the process for me, but I would definitely have that conversation. And you're right. You hit the nail on the head where they have this tendency to rope all meat eater type people into this factory farm. That's like their go-to thing, right? Is they always fall back on this factory farm thing. And it's like, I could promise you right now, my friend, I don't farm anything. And well, that's going to change. I'm getting chickens in like 2 months. So I got to.
Oh, you'll love them.
Yeah. We've had them before, and my wife's cracking the whip for me to finish the chicken coop. I've been hesitant though, man. I got a lot of Yotes around here. And so and there's some work. They are some work. Yeah, for sure. So I feel like I need to clear out some coyotes first, and because it's going to be chitty chitty bang bang if I let them get in there. But anyway, The point being, factory farming is like this big bowl of soup that they put all hunters into, and it's not. It's such a different world. It's not even comparable, and so they don't understand. Not to sound, mean or anything, but they don't sound how stupid they don't know how stupid they sound, I guess, when they make that comparison.
Yeah. And it's really hard. It's really hard to not sound mean when I've asked people too. And if your experience has been like mine, trying to get somebody that's anti or vegan or something like that on to actually discuss it, most times it's like no response. Get those people on Instagram, you SOB, or how could you do this? How could you do that? And I'll ask like, hey, let's jump on. This is what I do. And let's have a conversation about it,
Yeah.
And they will not respond.
I know. No, I've invited a few of them on the show, and I don't even get responses. And so it's because I feel like deep down they know that there's really no argument that holds water against our lifestyle. We have the longevity. They're the ones that are new to the world of anti-hunting, that the anti-hunting movement and veganism and all that. That is what is new to the world, not hunting. And we have the facts. And these are not emotion-based facts. These are actual, true, legitimate facts. It's evidence that can be verified. And so they have a hard time arguing without just roping it all into some emotional thing about factory farming and how evil it is.
Okay, so I'll play devil's advocate, right? Because we kind of do the same thing when we talk about freezer full, and I just want to point that out when folks are saying, "Well, it's meat in the freezer." Yeah, that's a huge part of it, but it's not the only thing. And as hunters, to explain this to these people and to maybe not get them roped into our side, but to give them a better understanding, we got to stop with that weak argument and give the entire scope, if you will, right? What really gets it. Mm-hmm. Why we're out there and the values. And that's one of the things that I harp on, man. And you know, with your podcast, that's you have your way of fighting. Mine was to expose not just to anti-hunters or people that don't get it, but to even the hunting demographic, expose more than just, you know, air quote, the grip and grin, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the valuable side of hunting, the values. If you look at hunters, our demographic, and yes, there's anomalies, and I'm broad stroking here, but our demographic, with that involvement in what the circle of life, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
The values that creates and the struggles and everything that are created and held so high on the mountain, our value system, in my opinion, man, is second to none. Look around in any outdoor activity and you tell me where you can see the value system that is in the hunting demographic, and I will argue until I'm blue in the face.
Now it doesn't exist
exactly anywhere else.
No, you're exactly right. There is a hunting ethic that is only alive and well amongst the hunting community, and they like to try to paint us in this light of a bunch of rednecks out there, you know, throwing Miller Lite cans on the side of the road as we road hunt, and just because we hate the animals so bad, we just want to shoot them and take these pictures and that's the end of it. What they don't understand is this is not like we're collecting bottle caps for a collection as a hobby. This is our lifestyle. We plan for these hunts. Our souls are fulfilled by every moment we take out into the woods. We cherish these animals. We know a lot about these animals. We do things that they could never even fathom. And why it's right is because that is the history of humans. We've been doing this for generations. And eons. Yeah, exactly. And so it's so much more broad, like you said, than just filling the freezer. The filling the freezer part is only a nice perk when it's done. And by the way, the meat that I put in my freezer is a lot more healthy than that factory farm meat that those guys complain about. And I acknowledge that. And I'm not, I don't argue that point with them, but I will argue the fact that when and this is applied to whether you're a man or a woman, but I always give this, the caveat that I'm a man, so I only speak from a man's perspective. I don't know what it is from a woman's perspective, right? And so, as a man, this is what fulfills me. This is what my heart longs for all year. And there is no better way to connect with nature and the woods and these animals than as a hunter. Because I guarantee you, some bird watcher, vegan type does not understand Mother Nature like we do.
No, I say no so rapidly there. But until you are involved in that circle of life, until you have, that grit and that blood underneath your fingernails,
mm-hmm.
It's all so fuzzy, so touchy feely, right? It's sunshine and rainbows. Go ask, aunties or those folks, and you hear it all the time, right? If you ask a vegan about how much is killed in the production of, their veggies, they don't have an argument. But look at the respect that you have for the meat that you harvest from that animal you killed versus the meat that we waste when it's bought from the store, right? I won't let a piece of meat go to waste, man. I feel horrible. You know what I mean? I had a steak in the freezer, in the fridge. It was cooked, forgot it was in a Ziploc, had it for my lunch. And man, I put it in the microwave, and I probably shouldn't have ate it. My stomach was messed up for about 3 or 4 days, but it's like, I can't, you know what I mean? There's something about the level of respect you have for that meat versus the cellophane foam wrap when you go to the store. And you don't even know where half of that comes from.
I know,
right? Everything is labeled like crazy. There's this series, it's a documentary series on Netflix called Rotten. And what they do is they kind of expose industry, basically, right? There was one on garlic, and then there was one on avocados.
Oh, really? That'd be interesting.
It's actually a really good, I'm not a TV dude, right? But it's very interesting. And you look at the garlic one, I would suggest watching, because you see how manipulated everything is to get this stuff in the store, and what they're saying it is really isn't. It's unbelievable. So you really don't know what you're getting. I'll tell you this: don't ever buy garlic unless it is 100% produced in the United States.
Okay.
You absolutely do not want what I saw being done with this garlic, dude.
It's always dangerous just opening up these those kind of windows for me, because I'm a naturally suspicious dude.
Well, this series, I give it to the folks that came up with it, because I would have never thought some of the stuff that they're covering was even a thing, right? I mean, they're talking about the war. You know, we talk about like Mexico and south of the border and the cartels, and we're thinking drugs. Dude, it's that way in the avocado realm.
Really?
Because it's such a high dollar produce. At one time, it was the number one cash crop of California. When Mexico got involved and was able to import, it just went crazy.
That's nuts, dude.
It's insane.
Like,
I mean,
you said, it's
legit cartels.
You think of that, like, can you imagine? Because I've always been a little intrigued with Mexican drug cartels. Well, any Colombian drug cartels, whatever. And so like that'd be an interesting one, like the avocado drug cartel leader or avocado cartel leader. That, they probably have some dangerous name, and they're like, did our guacamole make it to the destination?
Hey, dude, no. Legitimately, like, you got to watch it. You're poking fun at it. Look, I'm a little nervous.
No, I'm not poking fun at it. I'm poking.
There's no difference. There's no difference between the dudes that were the cartels trying to manipulate that finance versus the drug kingpins manipulating the other finance.
I have to figure out a way to check this show out. So I'm like you. I'm not much of a TV guy. And what makes it even worse for my wife and I is we don't get good enough internet where I live to even get Netflix. We have to get the DVDs mailed in the mail. And so we're like pretty primitive out here. And hopefully that's going to change in like the next year, apparently, but we'll see. But anyway, we can't stream a bunch of videos. So we got through one episode of Tiger King but that was all the rave earlier this year. And I couldn't stand it. I thought, man, I'm not going to give this douchebag any more time of my life. And because of what we were talking about earlier, I feel like people will pile us into the same group as hunters as like that guy. You know what I mean? This weird mullet wearing country singer tiger owner guy, and like, because you've all seen the negative connotation of hunters, and they've got mullets and they're taking pictures with cigarettes in their mouths and drinking beer, and that's I think part of the imagery that we kind of got to get away from, and that's what I grew up doing, but that's what we got to get away from.
That's funny, because I started seeing that Tiger King, like the memes and stuff on social, and I was like, what the hell is this?
I know, me
People
too.
would send me, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy, right? And man, I haven't seen a single episode.
It's ludicrous.
We're so polarized by bullshit.
It's ludicrous. Don't even bother. Like, it's just it will make you question and suspicious of just mankind in general. I mean, it just was disappointing that humans live like that, and like the whole web of these tigers zoo people. They're so freaking weird. And I've just never seen, and I only watched one episode, and I've never seen anything like it. And so don't bother.
Oh, I won't, believe me. It's kind of what I said earlier, right? I mean, I think it was earlier this year, maybe late last year, when that stuff was going all crazy. But, it's, and I hate to fall into that category of folks that say it, but it's 2020. It's a perspective thing, but man, it is literally the year of rhetoric.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everything has to be, so polarizing on one side or the other, and there's no middle ground. And man, it's just the weirdest. It's a weird kind of time, dude.
It is a strange time to be alive. You're exactly right. I've been talking about that a little bit on my show. I feel like, and I love social media and all that. I like to use it, and obviously it's great for my show and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like it's like one of the root factors for all this polarization, and it's like made people think that they could say things that they wouldn't say in person to each other. And
it's absolutely,
and there's like no consequences either. And so I don't know. I feel like it's just been a big contributor to that.
I have to agree, right? I mean, it's the only way that we've been able to make these connections on either side, right? And what's funny is you would think that you would scrutinize who you're following or who you allow to follow you if you have a private account. But everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, I'm generalizing, blah, 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 caveats there. But everybody is looking for that like or that follow. So we don't filter what we're exposing ourselves to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, generally we are drawn to one side or the other. But it's a very strange dynamic, man, where, it's either this extreme or that extreme. And this kind of filters in because I didn't look at this person before I decided to follow him just because it was somebody that was following me and I can up my numbers. And it's freaking strange, dude.
It is. It's such a weird dynamic.
It's like, oh, man.
I'm
sheesh.
I'm worried. Sometimes I'm worried about, like, I'll post something and then.
You ever go hunting with somebody that always chintzes out on like the most important thing, like boots? I did a couple times. And you know what happened? They slipped and fell down the mountain the entire month of September. That's what happens when you buy $100 boots and try to make them last. They don't last. Guys, Hoffman Boots. Can't say enough good things about this company. It's a great family-owned business right here in North Idaho. They make badass boots. These things are insanely comfortable. They just glue your feet to the mountain in the steepest of conditions. They will keep you safer because of that. So while my buddies are falling on their butt the entire time, I'm walking down like I'm in the park. Guys, I have a great promo code that'll save you 15% if you go to hoffmanboots.com. It is all caps lock, Huntsman 15 in the checkout when you are ready for a new pair of great boots that you won't have to replace for a very long time. Guys, Scree is extreme mountain gear. They were one of the first sponsors of this podcast. And this high-performance hunting attire and gear it's scientifically tested camo patterns, backed by a great company, and it's got a lifetime warranty, VIP sizing and exchange program. Basically, if you order it and it's the wrong size, they pay for it to get shipped back, and they're going to send it back. I heard of some dude that accidentally ripped a pair of his hardscrabble pants, and he was upset about it, and he let Scree know, and they replaced them for him. Guys, this is a great company. That's the kind of company that I am proud to have supporting this show and being partnered with them. It's just, again, a great company story and a company that you guys would be proud to own the gear for. It'll get you through any season, anywhere in North America. Check it out at screegear.com and use the promo code The Western Huntsman for 15% off and free shipping at checkout. And last, but by far not least, Phelps Game Calls. Guys, Phelps Game Calls, you guys, if you've listened to any of these episodes, as I kind of dissected my last September, I had so many bull elk encounters using these calls, and I used everything from the Pink Maverick to the Pink Amp to the Maverick. I used the Renegade Bugle Tube. I used a couple of their external reed calls. Just had a ball calling in elk left and right, hand over fist, because these calls work. Obviously, they work well. It's not just about that, though. Guys, Jason Phelps started this company from scratch and built it into what it is now. The company, the game call company that we all know well. And I think that is so important. These American companies that are born out of an idea and they grow into this thing that we can all get behind and love and support, and the personalities and the people behind it. That's Phelps Game Calls. Salt of the earth company, salt of the earth people that run it. And I can't say enough good things about Phelps Game Calls. Don't forget, it's not just about elk with Phelps. You get you a blacktail in distress call and watch those deer come into you while they're rutting, because it fires up those does. And what do you think is right behind those does during the rut? November's coming. Make sure you're getting your deer calls as well. So check it out at phelpsgamecalls.com and use the promo code Huntsman10 for 10% off at checkout. I keep wanting to say shipping. That's how I roll. All right, guys, with that said, thank you to the sponsors of this show. Let's get back to the discussion. Hope you guys are enjoying the show. We'll talk to you later.
I'll get off of Facebook, for example, and I'll be off for a few hours, and then I'm almost nervous to get back on to see if what kind, especially on some of I've done some controversial episodes, and they I jump on there, and man, I'll have like private messages and direct messages that are just nasty as I'll get out. My inbox will start filling up through my email, and which is fine. And I don't mind debating, and I don't mind having, differing opinions and stuff, but people get so nasty. And I always look at, like, I remember, 20 years ago when I'm in the service out in North Carolina, we'd all go out to this bar, and it was a super rowdy bar. And there were fist fights like every time you go out there and all this stuff. They had dollar beer night. So when you don't have a lot of money, you go to dollar beer night. And I've kind of pictured it like, what if people talk to each other on social media? What if they took that kind of tone with people in a bar like that? Like, I remember, people wouldn't do that in person.
No, hell no.
Because Facebook's like being in a bar. It feels like everybody's just wasted and drunk, and they'll say whatever the hell they want, and there's no consequences and whatever. But can you imagine the way some people talk to us and other people on Facebook if they translated that in real time, in real person, in like a bar or a restaurant or any kind of public gathering? People be getting some black eyes, man.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And that's funny too, right? Because, everyone wants this freedom of speech with no repercussion. But they're not going to bring it, like I like to say, they're not going to bring it to my front door.
Yeah.
It just, you know what I mean? It's just like, come on, man. You wouldn't have the balls to do it in front of me. You wouldn't have the balls to say it in front of me. You wouldn't have the conversation like you're having it in front of me. And then they always revert to, especially the keyboard warriors, right? They always revert to the, look at how you're acting, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're attacking.
Yeah. Well, I'm just responding,
bring it
man.
To the front door.
We're just responding. and that's another issue with it. It's like, just because we don't see eye to eye on something, because we might not agree on who should be president or this, insert your social dilemma here. And,
right.
We don't have to agree on everything to be friends. You know what I mean? And that's where that polarization comes from. People they take it so personal
it's crazy
if there's some kind of disagreement. Anyway, you're getting me off on a rant again.
What's funny? Well, let's draw that in. Let's draw hunting into it, right? Because, there's a lot of rhetoric around us, and as hunters, we another generalization, so people don't want to, say, what are you talking about?
Don't assume anybody's gender.
We act like we're impervious to it, right? We're not that way. That we can avoid, the air quote brainwash. But we divide into sex, though we're seen as one from the outsiders, right? So, cliche as hell, but we'll fall in a divide, and because one guy hunts this way, or, he doesn't like, long range this, or wants to shoot a 6.5, like Dirk said. I don't know why everybody has a problem with the 6.5 Creedmoor in his post today. And then you got 20 guys that'll say, that's 6.5 is a piece of trash, but we'll divide ourselves and act like we're impervious to all this bullshit, argue about camos and talk mess about, and some of it's fun banter, right? Going back and forth.
Yeah. There's a difference between attacking people and then enjoying some rivalry. And you're exactly right. And I've said this for a long time. I think the biggest detriment to hunters, the downfall to hunting is going to be hunters.
Absolutely.
Because people, I don't know what it is with that 6.5 Creedmoor, but that thing has like wicked reactions. And I don't know why. Who cares? It's a freaking caliber. It's a rifle or whatever. I just don't
just
get
like
it.
You said, right? And it's cliche, right? But that divide is what's going to conquer us. That is what will be the detriment of us. And, I used to think that I wouldn't see it in my lifetime. I used to think that my kids would be okay, if they choose to, pursue hunting further down the road, and with grandkids, that it was safe. I honestly, after seeing this shit go down in the last year, I'm like, man, we really are threatened, and it's happening a lot faster than I ever would have thought and assumed. I mean, we got wolf reintroductions damn near all over the West taking place. We have protection of mountain lions here in California. They protected them until 2025, saying that, they're the potential for, them being in danger, which is absolute BS.
Yeah,
man.
That's garbage.
They tried to ban any hunting on this sly little bill that they had, any hunting on any enclosed land. So if you had 3-strand high fence, it didn't matter. They were trying to get this passed under the guise of, we're going to give you a permit that'll last you for as many pigs as you want. But then you read into the fine print, and it was an all-out ban on hunting, fenced or boundaried land that has a physical boundary.
That's nuts.
That was put in. Yeah. So my point is, here we are arguing over BS, thinking that we're impervious to, the way, we criticize folks for being so polarized on one side, but here we're doing it, and we are our own worst enemy. Like you're saying, we're going to be the detriment, if it's not just fun banter, but there's bands of people that are serious about it, Yeah,
I actually first noticed it years ago when I got into fly fishing. And I didn't know that these like super purist elite fly fisher types were so opinionated about every other type of fishing out there. Cause I do all sorts of fishing. I'm not picky. If I can catch a fish, I'll do it, and it's legal, I'll do it. But I do love fly fishing, and I'm really good at it. And so I really enjoy it. But I strike up conversations with these purist fly fishermen that just talk so much smack about other fishermen. And it's like, who are you to judge somebody if they want to use a night crawler? Like this is the stuff. And then you translate that into the hunting world, where you could really micro break that down. You got, and I know I've talked about this a lot lately, but you've got hunters in general, and then you break it down to archery hunters. And I'm a big time archery hunter. But within the archery hunting community, you have like your trad bow guys, you have your compound bow guys, and they start kind of bickering, and it goes into like all these different levels. And I have just got the opinion that we're all hunters, and we kind of have the same goal, and we have the same pursuit in our lifestyle and our traditions, and we don't need to have like these, we don't need to brand everybody. I mean, we hear enough of that from Hollywood and the media, and everybody's got to have some kind of brand that they belong to. And we just don't need that in the hunting community. And I think people do need to calm down and just understand that if we're all divided, we're going to lose our public land. We're going to lose our right to hunt. The animals aren't going to be managed appropriately, we're going to have ballot box management for our wildlife, and that's going to degrade our public land, and the wolves are going to kill everything. And all these things that can happen. It doesn't have to be like a legislator coming out and saying, "Oh, we're banning hunting in California," or "We're going to ban hunting in the United States." That is very unlikely in our life. But what is likely is we get split and divided so much that, we get taken down by ballot box initiatives and public land loss and all these things, because the groups that are against us are united and we are not. And that's what's got to change.
So here's how I see it, right? Like, this Colorado thing, the mountain lion thing here in California is I think that's calculated actions, man. If we can't ban hunting, we sure can affect the availability of, the prey species, right? Most of our ungulates, right, are going to be hugely impacted by Colorado. I look at how Idaho, you guys have been dealing with the wolves for a while. I think that is all calculated action to limit hunting, right? If you get an area and the herd numbers decline so badly, what are they going to do? They're not going to allow us to keep hunting it, or they're going to limit the numbers. So then when people aren't able to get the tags they want or access to these areas, or the game is, they're not filling the freezer, you're more likely to see people falling off.
Yeah.
And as we age, right, it's harder than hell to get the next generation, right, our, air quotes, millennials, especially the liberal ones, to even consider something like hunting.
Yeah.
So we're already hurting with, the future of it. It's already in shambles, and they're already attacking us. I mean, we're not going to get the stuff that they put in place back. Colorado's going to struggle. I know you guys had to bring folks in from Alaska to even, get folks familiar with trapping the wolves, because they're so, such a sly creature.
Yeah. And that's what I want people to understand too with that. Like, I agree with you. There was like this systematic plan for the wolves. And the reason I say that, but let me start by saying, I don't hate wolves. I think they're actually super cool to have on the landscape. They really are a neat animal. But they're a dangerous animal. They're a dangerous animal to our wildlife in general. All species suffer because of wolves being there. And so that's why I feel like there was a systematic, this takedown, and it has affected. I know a lot of guys that tell me, yeah, I used to hunt until they released wolves, and now I don't hunt elk anymore because there's no elk left in the area I used to hunt. And there's sometimes guys like to exaggerate that. And, more what I think happens a lot is they refuse to leave, but had a major negative impact on our elk populations. And so the point is we've now got all these facts and all this data to show the damaging effects to all other species that the wolves have created, because they've been here for 25 years. And or even take a look at Yellowstone and look at the moose populations and the elk populations and compare that to prior to releasing the wolf. But they keep pushing this propaganda that, like, oh, the wolves are still endangered, and they've done such great things for the ecology of Yellowstone because this shrub grew back on the bank of the river and whatever, which most of this is BS. And so you want to fall for this fantasy of having these shrubs back in the river and totally ignore the fact that the elk numbers in the Yellowstone National Park are so dismal that they're almost non-existent. When I was a kid, we'd go to Yellowstone and you'd see elk everywhere, man, everywhere. Now all you see is bison, and everybody wants to get out and pet a bison, and that usually leads to some comical videos.
Yeah, it does.
Ignore these detrimental impacts of the wolf, and that's why it's like there's something to what you're saying. You cannot ignore the fact populations and the moose populations have had a significant negative impact and sit there that you're for wildlife because you're pro wolf. It doesn't work. We have to have a balance. I love wolves too, but they need to be managed.
Absolutely. And, your episode that you did with Dr. Valerius Geist there, you're talking a guy that authored the North American conservation model, right? He authored that. Yeah. And he's saying, this is foolish. I told him this was foolish. There you go. There's your ballot box stuff. There's your touchy feely, wolves on the landscape. The guy authored it. He was enough to do that, but they're not going to listen to his opinion when it's, these reintroductions with zero to no management. It's just it's foolish, man.
Because his opinions are not some product of his emotional stance or his emotional state of mind. These opinions developed out of decades of research and science. And that's why he has that opinion. That's why he holds those opinions, and he backs it up with actual factual data that shows the negative impacts. But he gets so frustrated because everybody that's on the other side of that aisle they're so emotionally based. They don't have facts. They don't have data. They don't have evidence. They just have their fantasy of wolves are so cute and cuddly and great and should be everywhere. And wildlife shouldn't be managed at all. They should just let Mother Nature take care of it. And all these things that just have been proven time and again not to work. But I will tell you, on like a side note, with that particular episode with Dr. Geist, I don't know that I have ever felt dumber after talking to somebody than that. And that guy's smart. He was using words. I couldn't even keep up with him. I'm like, what does that mean, man? Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. He was so smart and so passionate about it. I loved it.
It was funny to me, and I don't mean any disrespect, right? But you'd give a little, this is Jim's experience. I saw this, and boy, oh boy, every single time he'd hit you, and he'd be like, oh yeah, I documented that. And I'm like, well, sheesh,
I know.
Jim ain't sharing nothing.
Jeez, man.
He had everything. When he had everything documented.
When he clips his big toenail, that clipped toenail is smarter than I am. That's how I felt when I got off the phone with him.
Oh man. It was, I thought it was I thought you hosted it well. I never felt like you were outgunned in it.
Man, I did. I appreciate that, but I did.
I think you did really well, right? Because what do you do with a guy that has that many years under his belt? That's his life, his livelihood. He's not well researched. He's doing the gathering.
Research. Yeah, he is the guy doing that. Yeah.
So how can you not, I don't think you took a back seat, but how can you not kind of ride side saddle with him given his take? I thought you did good, man. It was a good episode to listen to.
Well,
and then you were able to break
that.
some things down that some folks may have not understood and give kind of our perspective on it. I thought it was good, man.
Man, I learned a lot from that episode. He's interested in people learning. He doesn't just want to talk at people. He actually wants them to learn. And I really liked what he talked about with the mule deer and the way that how they can cohabitate with whitetail. And because that's a big issue in my area. This area that I live used to have tons of big mule deer, and now it's just full of whitetail. And I love whitetails too, but not at the expense of the mule deer getting pushed out. And so I actually passed on he was like a 3x4 buck mule deer this year because it's one of those areas where there's a pretty heavy whitetail population. And based on what Dr. Geist said, that buck that I could have shot, and this was only like 3 weeks ago, will be the buck next year that will protect the mule deer does from the big whitetails. And so I'm like, and then come to find out, this dude I know that I gave him this area to hunt, which was a huge mistake. And he goes up there and I'm pretty sure he shot that thing. I'm not sure.
That's the hard part. But that's the hard part. And that there goes that being a good podcast episode and something good to listen to. And it says a lot for your, for the most part, we go by a tag, right? We're passive conservationists. Mm-hmm. But the fact that you had that information and you made a decision that, hey, okay, this is what I learned, and now I'm going to take this into the field. I think that's a huge statement, one, to hunters, but to you, because who's going to pass the 3x4 muley? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not an easy game.
Prior to that episode with Dr. Geist, and no, I already knew that we were suffering with our mule deer numbers, but prior to that episode, I would have smoked that mule deer. Because in that particular unit, they just really don't get much bigger than that guy. We don't get these big monsters up, mule deer up in the panhandle of Idaho. I don't know what the deal is. They just don't get that big. So now Idaho has some big mule deer, just not this far north. So, or you can go further north than where I was hunting, and you can actually find some big ones in some of the higher country. But anyway, point being, before I did that episode, I would have totally smoked that buck, and been done with it, man. And so I do take this stuff serious, and I want the mule deer to thrive. I got a thing for mule deer, man.
Who doesn't? I know
guys that don't. I know guys that they talk smack about mule deer. One guy calls him the gray donkey or something like that. I wouldn't shoot one of those stinky gray donkeys if my life depended on it, and doesn't like the taste. And I'm like, well, are you kidding, man? There's nothing better than a high country mule deer. Yeah.
Oh man, I hear it all the time with people going, you like the way it tastes. I'm like, man, this is grub.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Lip smacking good.
Yeah.
So how do we get that kind of action, right? Spread that message and get that kind of action to conservation as hunters, right? When you hear something like that and you take action on it, I mean, that's a huge impact. Now, how do we get that out enough to where we're not looking to buy a $25 t-shirt and say I supported XYZ because I got a t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like, how do we impact and affect conservation in a way that we are out there making decisions like that? And damn, that's hard.
It is. It's so hard, man. People are so set in their ways. They're so stubborn, and they're so, especially when they get a little long in the tooth, like I am, and guys like us that, I think that the only answer that I could give that might have some hope from that standpoint is, doing what you and I are doing with these shows and just providing this constant drip of information that when I was growing up as a hunter, I've been hunting all my life. I did not have this information at my fingertips. We didn't have internet. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have any of this. And so back then, I feel like the hunting mentors that were around, like my dad, and I had a grandpa and uncles and family friends that would take us out, they didn't do a super great job at talking about the hunting ethics side of it, the ethical side of hunting and the learning experience of it in terms of knowing why, for example, mule deer and white-tailed deer struggle to coexist in certain habitats and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that just by having, conversations like these and getting involved as much as we can with foundations that actually have people that as a day job do this for a living, supporting those kind of groups, because the other side to that, the anti-hunting community, they have full-time attorneys and people that are pushing this stuff every single day. They have marketing professionals.
They're political powerhouses.
Yeah, they're
political powerhouses.
Very much political powerhouses. And so it's got to just be this slow drip of information. And my hope is hunters get involved, and hunters, they get a sense of a responsibility to help with these things beyond just buying a tag or a t-shirt, like you were saying. Because it used to be just buying the tag. You can say I'm a conservationist because I bought a $35 deer tag, and and whatnot. And I'm not discounting that, but I feel like we're at a point in the world of hunting the way it is now in North America. And this speaks to our friends in Canada too. We're at a point where we probably, I feel like, need to ask a little bit more out of hunters.
Absolutely.
Than what it's just not like it was.
No, and it's not a time where being passive about it is gone, right? And that's what I said, right? The passive conservation is it's gone, and it's everything we do is going to affect how we continue to do it, man. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that people really, I know people don't realize it. We go to the woods now. And dude, I'm picking up trash every single time, right? Elk season, man.
Drive me crazy.
Dude, it's like something in my head, it speaks volumes, right? And I don't care if it's one guy, 10 guys, but if you got a group of us together in a room and said, how much trash did you pick up? It's astounding, right? It's every one of us. But to see that, I know we're not paying attention to it. It's like, dude, if it was okay for you, and for me, I'm anal. I don't care if, I got to get in the med kit to get, that little tear open packet of aspirin out because I got a headache or something. It's going back in the bag. And dude, you would be you shocked to see how much of those you find laying around the woods. And it's small stuff like that. It's like,
we need more people like you, man. We like that. I tell you what, I'm going to have,
about that.
I'm going to have a heart attack over the way hunters treat the woods sometimes. So this last September, I'm up and my brother-in-law and I are hunting elk. And we get this response with a bugle, and I was pretty suspicious they were hunters, and the way that they were moving, I was like, okay, those are hunters. But they wouldn't stop bugling, so they didn't know that I was a hunter. And so I told my brother-in-law, I'm like, screw it, man. Let's call them in. So I did. I was ripping chuckles and bugles and just going nuts. And I called them right to us, and they came in, and you should have seen the looks on their faces too. When they come through the brush and see me and my brother-in-law standing there, that look of disappointment, they're like, oh, like, guys, that's not how it works. You don't. Anyway, we get to talking to these guys, and they were really cool guys. They were younger guys, probably, mid, late 20s. They were super pumped to be up hunting. They seemed like they were having a great time. They were decent callers. And they were just kind of those you'd think representative wise would represent the hunting community in this real positive way. And I was pretty excited to talk to those guys and share our experiences, what we've been doing and whatnot. And they told me where they were camped. And the area this was taking place, I know it very well. I've been hunting up there for years. I know all the camp spots. I know all the, whatever. And everybody just kind of camps down on the river, and then they hunt the higher country around it, and so they told me where they were hunting, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, if I'm driving by there, I'll swing in and maybe we can crack a beer and whatever. And they're like, okay, well, we don't know when we're leaving yet. It's real weather dependent. I'm like, okay, well, I'll check on you like tomorrow or whatever. I pull into their camp. I drove by that camp that night, and I saw where their tent was, and they explained what their tent looked like and all that. And then the next day I threw some beers in the cooler in the back of my truck and was driving it up there. I was going to go see how their morning hunt went. And because we're not backcountry hunting up there, it's all base camp, and I pull in there. They were gone, packed up, but they left beer cans and bottles and garbage all over this camp spot, and I was freaking livid. Because I did not expect that from those guys. And to people listening that don't know this, metal doesn't really burn. You can't leave your cans and pork and bean cans in the fire pit and clean that shit up and take it home. That stuff, it just makes my blood boil. And I was so disappointed that these young dudes did that. And I just wish I can come across them again so that I can explain to them that, you guys, you don't understand when you do something like that creates this domino effect of people who think that, they shouldn't have any human encroachment into the woods, and they'll shut down this national forest thing that we cherish so much, this public land thing. They will shut this down over things like that. So,
Give them a reason.
Yeah, you're just giving them a reason. So it was super frustrating, man.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I may be extreme, but like, if you got a fire ring, I won't even, you sit there, you make a fire ring, dude, I dismantle it.
Yeah.
My opinion of it is, right, and it's a camp spot. People know that people have been there. But I want to try and leave, and it sounds cliche, but I want to try and leave it better than I found it. And for me, dismantling my fire ring is part of that.
Yeah.
And then those damn monument things, man, when they stack the rocks on top of each other.
I know.
That shit drives me crazy. Dude, I kick them down. I'm sorry.
What is the point of that? What is the point of those monument things they make? I've never understood it.
Exactly. I know that boots have walked where I'm walking most times, but I want to feel like no one's been there, at least for a while. Right?
I know. I don't want to
see them damn things.
I love that feeling, man. I love the feeling when I'm in this basin or a drainage and I feel like I am the first man to ever walk through that area. You know what I mean? And I know in most cases I'm not. There is one area that I've hunted in Idaho where I feel like this particular place I went, there's a chance. There's like this very small chance. I might have been the first human to walk through there. It's doubtful, but.
Right. But to have someone else walk in behind you and have that same feeling or that same experience, to me, it's important for me. That's important. Part of hunting. You know what I mean? To be in God's country and know that it's God's country, and I don't have to look at these GD little monument things there. It drives me.
I know.
Call it a weird quirk, man, but I hate them damn things. I'd rather pick up your trash than kick those things down or see them.
It just a lot of that stuff, the trash, man, that just drives me to drinking. I can't handle it, especially. I hate to say especially, but it is even worse when you're in the backcountry and somebody leaves like an empty mountain house and all the garbage, or throws I don't know who the hell packs cans of beer, by the way, that far into the back. I find cans of beer.
There's a lot of people, buddy.
Like you're taking that much weight that far from the road. It's nuts, but I guess a lot of people do that.
Oh, the worst part of it is they took that much weight in, but aren't willing to bring a fraction of the weight back out.
I know.
I mean, think about it, right? It's lighter coming out than it was going in. And if you were blessed enough and lucky enough and skillful enough to win, against your quarry there, okay, you got a heavy pack. So at some point, right, when it's 1/4 and some loose meat, get your fucking trash. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Pick it up and pack it out.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
Drives me crazy.
When we were hunting in Colorado, I keep a roll of those 50-gallon bags for our trash, right? Man, the one day, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, right? I probably had... No, it's not an exaggeration. Probably like 2 grocery store bags full of, air quote wood trash. And some dude left. There was like he stopped at the gas station mart, on his way out to the woods. There was like an Arizona cup of, those old peel lids, a cup of fruit. Yeah.
Oh, the fruit.
A Pepsi. Okay. Yeah, half a drink Pepsi, and there's just a bunch of stuff, and then a big Tupperware bowl. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna get in trouble. Like you didn't even care that much that your wife's gonna jump you for leaving her Tupperware in the woods. It was just the weirdest find, and it was just like, man, yeah, I don't know. That's just lack of giving any kind of shit.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
Leave it there like that.
Like that stuff. That stuff doesn't go away. I found a vintage Budweiser can that had to be from the 1960s because I actually looked it up on the internet. I carried it off the mountain. I should post a picture of it. It's old. And so I'm looking at. I don't know if it was 60s or early 70s or whatever. Either way, we're talking like 50 years ago. That can is still sitting there, and it's really not in that bad of shape. This is a place that gets 4 or 5 feet of snow every year. But Anyway, these are the frustrating parts of being a hunter. And this is where what we were talking about when we do need to ask hunters that we need to step it up a little bit. We gotta pack our trash out. I don't even leave my shell on the ground when I'm rifle hunting. And the expectation of, so to speak, the misconception that just buying a tag these days is enough for our lifestyle to continue on is really not realistic. Yeah, it's not realistic anymore. We've got to do more. Near it. And when I say do more, it's get involved with like foundations and get involved, become a board member of an association that's important to you, whether it's Mule Deer Foundation or be on the chapter volunteer at the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, or donate money, donate time, do what you can. It's not that big of a chunk of time out of your life to do these little steps that will go a long way.
Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting topic, right? And there was a point in time where, you supported what you thought was the best. But that's some touchy ground, man, because there's some organizations that have come under fire as of late that might not be spending that money where they say they're spending it or utilizing it to the fullest. So I think that's where a lot of people, and I'm making an assumption there, where the problem is. Yeah. Right? It's like, okay, where is it really going? And then a lot of it, like here in California, right? You got chapters of organizations that whoever the members are in the state, that's where the funding comes from for that state, for that organization. If you look at California, you're like, okay, well, what are you doing? Right. What are you doing? Cause I'm losing this, I'm losing that. I'm not really seeing it, or, do we even know that money's going? So I think there's a dilemma there with how upfront and honest and open, organizations are about it and what they're telling us. I think there's some scrutiny that needs to be had. And we have to watch it as hunter. My point is we have to watch it as hunters and make sure that we are supporting an organization that truly has, the wildlife in mind, but our backs too.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that there's times that I have organizations, they send me just an ungodly amount of marketing material through, the old fashioned snail mail. And it's like, sometimes I wonder, it's like, that's like the fifth or sixth time I've received this big packet of stuff from you guys. I feel like my money would be better spent on improving habitat or reintroducing species in certain areas, whatever the initiative is for, that year, whatever. And so I agree. I prefer the smaller, more local organizations over some of the big national ones. I think that there's a lot more scrutiny and focus on those ones. But sometimes those big national ones also make the biggest difference because they have the funding. And so I think where I don't disagree with that notion at all. They do need to be scrutinized, and we do need to know where that money is being spent. And that part's very important. But I also see a lot of importance in some of these associated time employees, because we need people that are full time. We need these people that are at the cutting edge of everything that's going on. They're on top of legislative issues. They're on top of habitat issues, wildlife, public land stuff. So those associations that have these full-time people that are going to bat for us, as long as they truly are, like you were saying, that is what's going to help us combat some of these anti-hunting, anti-public land, because there's a lot more up against hunting than just the anti-hunting community, right? I mean, the folks that want to snatch up public land and make a huge profit on it are a huge threat. In fact, I'd even say they're a bigger threat than the anti-hunting group. But you can rest assured, have full-time people staffed and ready to go to battle against us. And so that's why I like having these organizations that have that as well. So, yeah, for sure.
Well, you know what? You brought up that privatization. Check that. Oh, you can't. Damn it, Netflix. I'll try and watch it and maybe like screen record it and send you the little snippets. But it was back in Maine, and they're talking about, the fisheries there and the push to privatize the ocean fisheries. And those guys are getting their butt kicks by big money, by big finance, these corporations that they're literally trying to privatize the ocean.
That's
so it's not
stupid, man.
Yeah, it's everywhere, dude. It's, that industry is suffering for the little guy. I mean, they're pretty much wiped out. Harbors that had 1,500 boats are, 100, 120 boats now. Mm-hmm. Generations of fishermen that barely can survive with it. So that's already happening there. If the animals we pursued were such a commodity, we'd already be feeling it like them.
For sure.
But that, they're going to figure out a way to use that land for whatever that reason is. And yeah, I agree, man.
And one approach that Dr. Geist was even talking about that I always, if I have an opportunity to share this information, I want to. But one of the issues with unmanaged wolves is it is not in question whether or not these wolves will wipe out ungulate populations. They do. That is not a question anymore. That's what will happen if these wolves are left unchecked. And what is the result of that? Wildlife that no longer exists on our public lands. What makes our public land worth anything? The wildlife. So if that wildlife is no longer on our public land, because once the prey base is killed off, the wolves will die off too if they've got nothing to eat, right? So when the wildlife is so heavily depleted on these public lands, the federal government's going to look at that and be like, well, they're not worth anything. Nobody goes hunting anymore and buys tags. I hate to say that money is the root of all this, but money is the root of all this. And so if there's nothing left to hunt, people won't buy tags. And not to say that hunters are the only people that use the public land systems, because we're certainly not, but that is going to be a huge that's a huge factor for the states. The federal government owns all this land, but we make a lot of money from tags as a state, as an agency. And now we're not making that money. And why are we letting the federal government control these lands when we could take them over and sell them to private organizations like the Wilkes brothers, and they come in with their billions of dollars, and bam, we could buy new school buses for all our school districts, and that land is gone, and hunting is a thing of the past, other than on private ranches.
That's it. I mean, that was exactly what I was saying. It's to me, it's all calculated, man. I think that it sounds, foil hat conspiracy, but I think it's calculated.
I think so too.
We're watching it happen. We're watching it happen in front of our eyes.
Yep.
It's scary.
So I got a question for you, kind of off topic here, just kind of shifting gears. What made you want to start a podcast?
I'm tiptoeing. So I was listening to a podcast and I'm going, this is great, right? It's great to hear these big names, if you will, or these flashy stories, if you will.
Yeah.
But there's so many more stories. You talk to somebody, if you go to a trade show or something and you talk to somebody, or just, in a Sportsman's Warehouse or whatever, and you talk to somebody about hunting, and you start sharing this conversation, and you both light up, right? And you're lighting up from their conversation, and they're telling you about a hunt, and vice versa. And it was to the point where it's like, man, I want to hear more than these 10 stories. How can I hear this? How can I live this all the time? How can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
I'm in California, man. There's not much contact with hunters, right? So that was part of it. And it was just like, okay, how can I do this? And I was like, well, I'm going to just start reaching out to folks, and Instagram being what it is. And, I'm looking and I follow people, and I'm not the just follow you back, right? Like if I get, if someone follows you or something, I literally go through and I look and say, oh, this is cool. This is, this represents us in a good light. And there's you make some bad choices, but
yeah. Yeah.
So I just started going through there, and there was people that I was intrigued with, their pursuit, their mindset, where they hunted, things of that nature. And I was just started reaching out going, all right, this is cool. this is really freaking cool. And the more I did it, the more it was just like, I find so much value in just the everyday story. Not to say that there's not value in, getting those tips, tactics, pointers from the guys that are just, straight killers. There's a lot of folks that are just monsters on the mountain that are, semi-recluse
that you never even hear about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where, to me, that's where the story was at, right? It was more relatable to my pursuit than the others.
Yeah.
I can't, I'm not going and there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not going and getting governor tags and things of that nature. Not to say that's what everybody does, but just, to drive my point home, the everyday stories is really what intrigues me. And that's why that's the main reason I started it, was to share to share the values of hunting more so, the beautiful grip and grins, because there's a lot of them that exist, dude.
I think you and I are a lot alike, man. I think we see the value in the greater story. We have a lot of these celebrity type kind of hunters out there, and they're always fun to get on the show, right? And they always have a lot of good tips and tactics and all that kind of stuff. But man, sometimes you get some serious nuggets out of these dudes that don't even know what Instagram is. And that's, I think, a lot of what I wanted to do, and I haven't been that great at it. I get a lot of random guests, and they're all good. I love all of them. And but my goal was to actually interview a lot of people that nobody knew. And I kind of want to get back to that at some point here, because I think that they have the perspective that most hunters have, and that is a perspective that is widely known and should be exploited to protect our way of life.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you expose those values and the other sides of hunting. A lot of those folks, man, they're hunting on the weekend.
Yeah.
They're not 5, 10, 15 days out. Like, some folks, and nothing wrong with it. I give it to the guys that have figured out how to live it day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm huge on that, right? It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where, we get in these arguments, this negative rhetoric about someone's pursuit. And we want to take away, because a guy had the governor tag, or because a guy hunted on a big ranch. But you can't knock the grind. These dudes and women, for that matter, have figured out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll never take that away, but man, to tap into some of the values, my friends, the Reddaraths, Kristen and Brady, they are living, breathing proof of, in my opinion, of the hunting lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Their family values, and I just impeccable people, man. Like you can't hold a match to some of these folks that we talk to. It's been phenomenal.
That's been one of the most surprising things with me doing a podcast, is my level of how impressed I've been with the quality of people that are out there in the hunting community. Like dude,
that's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
There's just look at the values,
the integrity, the motivation, the commitment, all these things that I feel like so many other people that I don't know how to word that, but people that may not hunt may need to take lesson from. And I think that a lot of that has to do with how deep hunters have to go into their own soul to be successful, and what they have to do to achieve things and protect things that are just this thing that is greater than us as an individual. And so I've just been overwhelmed with my level. I know we were talking smack about some of the hunters that go out there and, they litter, they leave trash, they stack rocks, they do all this stuff that we don't take super kindly to. But just from my perspective, I've just been really impressed with the caliber of people within the hunting community. And I love every time I record a show, I make a new friend.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost, sometimes I think about it, right? And it's like, it's almost a little weird.
I know,
sometimes.
seriously. And
you know what I mean?
I deal with 10 times as many people in my day job. And I never had that level of like respect and connection and how impressed I was and all that within my day job. You know, it's a whole new level in the hunting world.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've literally sat back and go, man, is this kind of weird? Like I'm so enamored with this person or that person, but you just can't help it, man. And I'm gonna go back a little bit. What you were saying, you know, that people outside of the demographic, they could use it. And I say that all the time. And one of the things that strikes me, is if you look at it, right, hunting teaches us failure. If we don't learn anything else about the animals we pursue or about what we did, it teaches you how to fail, and it's constant. And if you look around today, what do most people complain about, right? Is participation, flipping trophies. That's why these people in my opinion, don't understand it, because they haven't had to go and fail and fail and fail and fail and keep fighting for something. They're getting handed a flipping participation trophy or a pat on the back for just doing mediocre,
for just showing up.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, to me, that's where one of the biggest values is that we are okay with failing, but we're not looking at it as it's adversarial. It's part of the enjoyment, right? The part of winning that is so necessary is failure. You know what I mean?
It's like, that's such a good point, man. That's such a great point. I've never really put it into that kind of perspective, but you're absolutely right, man. And I am the epitome of what a failure looks like. I mean, I am like the most experienced yet worst hunter you will ever meet in life. And I wear that with pride. I don't care, man. I've never shot like a freaking 200 class buck or a 350 elk or all this stuff. The only thing I've ever been prolifically successful at was fly fishing. And even that's questionable. But so that's a really good way to put it is we are prepped. We are primed for failure. We know how that feels, and we know the work that it takes to be successful. And that's not to say that I hear these stories and it like, I don't even know how to react to them. I hear these stories every year. Oh yeah, man, I pulled up to the trailhead and shut my door on my truck and walked 30 feet and a bull elk was standing right there and I shot him and I pulled my truck down closer and drug it back up to the road with a strap. And I hear this every year. Man, I have never in my life been that lucky. Never has that happened to me. But so you always have those circumstances. But for the most of us, I think all hunters are like this. We fail a lot more than we succeed.
Hell yeah.
And
look at the success rate.
Yeah, exactly.
That speaks volumes, man.
For sure. And
it's sorry, go ahead, man.
Oh, no. Yeah. I was just going to say, I have major respect for the guys that, because, they're out there, guys and gals that get it done every year. They tag out every year. It always comes together for them. Mm-hmm. Not me. And that is not me.
And that's, to me, it equates to time in the woods, and then there's choices we make too. And that's one of the things with that failure that's phenomenal to me is, you get folks that, look down on, we'll call it for, to me was what it is trophy hunting, right? There's a caliber of animal that I'm chasing. And I think that failure teaches you enough to where you're like, okay, you're looking for the failure. You don't want the easy way out anymore. So you're going to upgrade.
Yep.
Right. That advancement, it just adds to the person. And I think it's a phenomenal thing to go chase, the monarch, if you will, of the mountain, be it a mule deer, a whitetail, or, that what's haunting me is a damn elk, man. But there's something about setting a standard, understanding that, failure is part of, the concept of what we do. It's at 10%, you're unlikely to go do it every year in the same spot over and over and over. And if you do it for 5 or 6 years, it may not happen in, the 7th, 8th, 9th year. It's all in cycles. But man,
you show up again every year.
Every single year.
I'm the same way, man. And I, what you said there with the trophy, I love one of my favorite quotes that ever came off of any of my episodes on my show came from Jason Phelps of Phelps Game Calls. And he said,
who the hell's that?
He said, that he is a trophy hunter with a meat hunter's heart. Meaning he goes into the woods wanting the biggest bull he could find, but generally shoots the first thing that walks out with antlers. And that's how I am. I do want that monster. And I do pursue, I'm a lot better at deer hunting than I am with elk. But this year, I had my girls with me. And so my priorities shifted, and that's okay. That's what, hunters need to be flexible with this. I was going to pursue this giant whitetail that I had. I know where he's at. I know what drainage he's living in. I know generally his patterns. But when my girls told me, when I asked them, if you want to go hunting with me, I will take you hunting and you can come with me. Now, I'm not going to drag them up to this snowy drainage that I'm talking about where that big buck is. Just because it's honestly, it's super steep and they don't have the right gear for it. So I took him out somewhere else, and we got a little buck the other day, and I'm super happy with it, but it does tie into, if we're being honest, guy, I don't even know where the hell I was trying to go with this, but I had a point, I promise. I had a direction, I had a really good end point there, and I just kind of drifted off because I was thinking about that buck.
Well, I think I'm making an assumption, right? Is we were talking about, what that failure in that trophy hunting, but what defines the trophy, right? Yeah. In that instance, that trophy is, your girls with you putting hands on that animal while the body's still warm. Mm-hmm. That's the trophy in it, right? A huge amount of value in something like that. They're so experiencing it with you. Yeah, there's so memories. Much value. Even if they forgot about it, right? In their teen years, you'll never forget about it. And that memory is going to come back to them, as they get older, and that's going to be value. I mean, is there a bigger trophy? Maybe a 400-inch elk, but
yeah. There's definitely a bigger trophy. There's always a bigger trophy, right? But no, that was awesome. It was awesome, man. I just I was able to teach him, what my traditions are in terms of when you are successful, how I respect that animal and I give thanks for that animal. And they learned that. And I taught them what not to do that would be disrespectful towards the animal. Dude, my 9-year-old can blood trail a deer or an elk like she is a freaking Comanche, man. She's awesome. And
I saw you post that.
Yeah,
so she can get it.
Yeah, she does. She found the deer that we got last week, and she just did a great job, and both of them did. Actually, my 9-year-old, she tracked it, but it was my 11-year-old that actually spotted it first. So I got to give credit where credit's due, right?
So you brought something up there, showing respect for that animal, right? And I think there's a dichotomy, if you will, in that, right? What's your opinion of the famous grip and grin, man, with the tongue out, with blood everywhere? How do you feel that affects us with social media, right? And the attacks we're under? Is there any importance for us to clean that stuff up and present that animal in the best light?
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I did post a grip and grin with this buck with my girls, and I did not clean. I didn't cut the tongue off. I didn't clean the blood off. I was just overly excited about having them there for that experience that I failed my own perspective and my opinion on that, because I do think that we need to clean those pictures up. Some people post some really tasteful pictures that make it look like they're just about, cuddling up with that animal. You know what I mean? And then there's others that, it looks like a freaking bloodbath. Like they put that animal in a headlock and slit its throat with a pocket knife and let it bleed out until it passed over and fell over and they took a picture. And I think that there is this balance that does it just for the sake of the fact that we all like to share these on social media. And I failed, in my own opinion, a week ago when I posted that picture on Facebook and Instagram. And it was like, I was so excited about it and my girls were involved and I put it out there and then I'm looking at it after I posted it and I'm like, geez, man, there's a bloody tongue hanging out of it. I should have cut that off. I should have cleaned him up. I had wet wipes right there. I could have cleaned the animal up. And I think that is important. And I'm going to heed my own advice in the future because I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I usually do clean the animals up. But in this case, I didn't last week. And I think that does put off the wrong message. And nothing makes me cringe more than when you get some of these pictures that people post. Again, it looks like a bloodbath. They're like they've got a cigarette in their mouth. That one, for some reason, just rubs me the wrong way because it portrays us like we're a bunch of Joe Dirt sons of bitches out there that hate animals. And look, I've got my beer and my cigarette and a bloody animal in front of me, and that sends the wrong message. That gives anti-hunters ammo. Go ahead. What was that?
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. That's why I was saying there's, a dichotomy, if you will, because there's a group and it's more than just a divide. So maybe the wrong word, but, there's a group of us that think that blood should be cleaned up, throw some dirt on it, rub it, whatever, just, drown out the blood a little bit, cut the tongue off.
You take a wet wipe, it comes right off.
Yeah. And then there's those that don't even think about it. And then there's those that are, just, hey, screw it. I do what I do. I'm posting it. I don't care about the Annies. And that's why I was asking, because it's interesting, ties back into our earlier conversation, in my opinion, about how that opinion is and what's working against us and the things that, this is one of the things, in my opinion, that we should be doing is displaying it in those different lights.
Yeah. And I don't want to pick on people that maybe they just don't realize because you got to look at it from this perspective. I'm now officially in my 40s. When I was a kid, when we'd go hunting, we were, all the grown dudes that I was hunting with, they always had a beer. They were all smoking cigarettes, and we'd take a Polaroid camera out and snap these pictures of these deer, and they were covered in blood and, all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of people, I think they don't, that's what we know. That's what we've known growing up. And so, but nowadays things are different. Now we have an ever-growing anti-hunting movement, and we have the social media platforms that these pictures get seen by, instead of 10 people at Thanksgiving,
10 people, yeah,
they're seen by thousands, and so that's I think where there just needs to be an understanding. I personally, I can care less if somebody cuts the tongue off and cleans the deer up. But I happen to know that, like, I have a family friend from who's friends with my mom from years ago, and those kind of pictures infuriate her because she doesn't understand hunting at all. And she's not like anti-hunting, but she doesn't want anything to do with it. And so when she sees a picture like that, it's kind of offensive to her. And we can have the attitude of, well, screw them. This is my life. This is my, how I want to live and how I want to portray it, and in your face and blah, blah, blah. You can take that route, or you can, do better with, do we need to clean up the deer completely or the elk or whatever? But no, I don't think so. But just a bit cleaner, maybe not the tongue, maybe, leave the mullet, get a haircut. No, I'm kidding about that.
What's funny is I saw a picture. I saw a picture. I want to say it was yesterday, and I can't remember the page. It was like one of those hunt meme pages, and there's a dude and he's laying there with the deer, and he has his tongue licking the deer's tongue.
I'll see that. See, I think that's BS.
I saw that and I was just like, and yes, it's a meme page, but I think those are a detriment to us.
They are,
because it's not just our demographic seeing it. And when someone else sees it, even it being a meme, oh, look at this is how they are, not this guy, right? We're already roped into the crap. So the first psychological study that I could find on hunting, on hunters in particular, is from 1973. Okay. 1973, they started evaluating the psychology of hunters. That's as far back as I could find it. I'm sure it exists earlier than that. I haven't got that far in. The one that I've been reading on more than most is as recent as 2017. And what they did is they went into social. They went and they picked out, some forums, and they're coming to their conclusions as to our mindsets based on post stories, facial expressions, key, trigger words that we use. And this is how we're being lumped as a demographic. So when we want to tell this great story that we understand, right, we have to understand that there's people that are, and some of these folks may not be against us, but everything I read, there is a strong anti-hunting sentiment as much as they know that, what we do, that consumptive recreation is necessary in conservation. There's still this huge anti-hunting sentiment, and they're trying to categorize us based on what we are displaying. And the reason that they're using social media and forums and things of that nature is because they feel like it's unbiased. People talking unbiased, like, they don't have to hold back in these forums. So as we display this to each other, they're judging us because who's telling them they can't be in there? These are public, air quote, public forums. Mm-hmm. So as we display this stuff, we're being judged on these displays, and unwittingly, but we have to understand it's to our detriment if they have this anti-hunting sentiment.
I think that they're from the hunting. From a hunter standpoint, I think that there is a serious lack of understanding as to the magnitude of the scrutiny that we are under. And so, like that picture you were talking about, where they're sticking their tongues, he's sticking his tongue out with a deer tongue or whatever. That's just foul anyway. But first of all, that you're disrespecting that animal by doing that, and that animal died for you. And second of all, what do you think happens when the secretary treasurer of PETA gets a hold of that photo, or the marketing manager of PETA gets a hold of that photo and sends it out there, and you have some lady in some big urban area that doesn't get the humor of what you're trying to do there. She sees that picture, and before seeing that picture, she wasn't necessarily for hunting, and she wasn't necessarily against hunting. That picture, in the way that like PETA is going to present it to her, she is now going to be a donor to PETA and an anti-hunter. And so that is a huge I think that's a huge miss on hunters' parts that we don't pay enough attention to. We have to open our eyes to that kind of stuff, because we are, these numbers are all over the board, but hunters make up less than 10% of the population in the United States. So
that's it.
Outnumbered. We are outnumbered. That's not to say that 90% of Americans are anti-hunting by any means. A lot of people, I have a lot of friends that are, I'd love to be a hunter. I'd love to go out and do that and do this, and I don't know where to get started. And they spend their entire life wishing they were a hunter but never do anything about it, right? And that's okay. That's their decision. I'm not judging them for that. But we do have this faction of America that is absolutely against it, and they're working every day to make it more difficult for us to lead our lifestyle. And so when we do stuff,
and they're growing.
Hunting is shrinking. Anti-hunting is growing. And so that is enough to give me a lot of pause for concern. And that's why, my general feeling is, just as hunters, We need to be more unified. We need to connect and communicate with each other better. We need to communicate our message to non-hunters better. We need to portray ourselves in a I hate to use the word classy because I'm not a classy dude in any way, shape, or form. But there is this level that I think needs to be portrayed and improved upon, because we are up against it. We really are. We are up against it.
I mean, if your thing is licking deer tongues or elk tongues after, just do us a favor and don't share that.
What kind of, you know what I mean? What kind of freaky fetish is that? I've never even heard of this licking a deer tongue thing.
I'll have to try it, dude. I saw that and I was appalled. And this is not keyboard warrior talk. I'd punch that son of a bitch in the face if I ever saw him.
I know,
right?
Yeah.
Because that is a detriment to me and to my friends and acquaintances that are hunters, to you and our demographic in general. I'd punch that son of a bitch in his face. And that's not keyboard warrior talk. I will knock the shit out of you if I see you.
Because that is like
about a year.
If a bunch of Fruit Loop PETA types were sitting around a little teeny fire, that picture is a 5-gallon bucket or jug of gasoline on that fire.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
And even some of the rhetoric that I use, I should probably tone it down. You know, because I get fired up, man. I get pissed. I'm not going to tone it down with PETA. I'm ruthless with them. I'll stick with my Fruit Loop reference there to the PETA folks, because actually PETA is not our issue. PETA is everybody knows that they're a bunch of unhinged radical fanatics and extremists, and so but they do raise a surprising amount of money. I was looking into that. I got kicked off their Facebook group because I was picking on them, but it's not even, it's groups that we really need to worry about are like the Center for Biological Diversity. Just their name is misleading as hell. But they misrepresent the wolf situation like you wouldn't believe. It's absolutely mind-boggling, the propaganda that is put out by these anti-hunting organizations like Center for Biological Diversity. So anyways, yeah, we're up against a lot, I think is the point I'd like to leave people with.
Yeah, a whole lot. And I'll tell you, with my point is we need to be better stewards of hunting, of our passion. If you truly love this lifestyle and what you do, please consider how you represent it. And I know that there was a time and place where this stuff wasn't exposed like it is now, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that as much as we want to be adversarial and don't want to bow down, we're not bowing down. We are helping this continue by being conscientious of how we display what we love.
Totally agree. Yeah. Great way to put it too.
It's a slippery slope we're on, man.
It is a slippery slope. So I feel like I'm like taking up your whole night here, man. You're actually a lot of fun to talk to. We should do this more often.
Let's do it, brother. We can come up with some kind of monthly or something. I enjoyed the hell out of this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe we just tackle current affair or something, something we see.
I have some ideas brewing, but I can't say them because we're on the air here, but I should get you involved with that. Because
let's go.
You've got really good perspective, and I think you're one of those rare ethical hunters that actually cares about how hunting, what the future of hunting looks like and how we're going to get there. And that's important. I think a lot of people more people need to follow your lead with that. And so I appreciate what you do there. And I love your show, dude. I love your intro, man. I love the intro on your show. I always get so jacked and motivated. It's got that cool music, and then you come in with this deep baritone voice. Welcome to Western Hunt. Yeah, and it's just it's a cool intro. I always get so psyched up.
shoot me what you want, man. I'll hook you up with one.
That's great.
Do my Western Huntsman cameo.
Hey, there you go.
But no, man, I appreciate the time, man. When you asked me, I was like, oh shoot, this is cool. This will be a great time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. Great conversation.
Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't good for anybody else, sorry, it was good for us.
Yeah. At least we had fun, man. That's all that matters.
That's it.
That's
brother.
right. That's right.
That is it, man.
So I want to get you back on because you're a lot more of a gear junkie than I am. I know very little about this stuff, dude. And I want to talk to you about initial ascent. I want to talk to you about some other items that I don't know much about. So we're just going to have to do this again.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Don't get me going on that IA. We'd be on another 2 hours.
I know.
Yeah, the one thing we have in common is Hoffman, man.
Oh man, those are the best boots. I love these boots.
Dude.
Like people don't know. I see people on we keep hammering at social media. They're talking about the Schnees and the Ketatrex and all these other, and they're great boots too, but you don't know what life is like
until you put your feet in them.
Yeah, these Hoffmans are fantastic. I got to take Jim Hoffman, the owner, hunting this last year.
Oh, did you? No way.
Yeah.
That's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he's a super good dude. We went up on an elk hunt back in September. We just did like a day up in this spot, and obviously we didn't shoot anything, but we had a great time trying.
Yeah,
we got a couple people out of it.
Yeah, that's what matters, right?
Yeah,
walking out satisfied.
And
those boots are something else.
I got a pair of those boots, and he actually delivered them that day. And that's one thing that I will say about these Hoffman boots is you do not need to worry about some 30-mile break-in with these boots.
Nope. Put them on and go.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. You think you were roller skating up and down the mountain with these things? I love these boots. I can't say enough. Yep. And this is my second pair.
It is surprising when you put something on like that, right? And the first time I wore mine, I was going, oh, I'm looking at the hill and I'm going, my feet are going to kill me. Dude, we hiked that day and I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
I think we did 6 or 7 miles. Most of it was uphill, and it was just phenomenal. I was so blown away that zero need for break-in. It was just unreal, man.
There is no break-in. I think Hoffman and we only did like 4.5 miles or 4 miles or something like that. But like you were saying, it was nasty North Idaho, brushy, straight up, straight down kind of country, and I just can't. What gets me with these boots every time is going downhill, because downhill is always a challenge for me. I was in the Marines, and the Marines really beat my knees and my ankles up, and I get really bad arthritic, kind of pain in those joints. And that what gets me is the way I have to walk to keep myself from falling with my other boots that I've always had. I don't have that problem with these Hoffmans. Going downhill, you just walk like I said, like you're in the park or something. And I don't slip, I don't fall. They just glue my feet to the mountain. I love them. Anyway, I get super pumped about these Hoffmans.
Oh man, it's a wonderful, wonderful boot.
Yep, for sure.
What's funny is, because our feet are so much different, right? Everybody's feet, wide, narrow, blah, 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 blah. And I've put buddies into 5, 6, 10 pair, whatever it is. And everybody has the same reaction, like this is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, with the toe box, everything. Which ones are you running? Are you running the 8-inch?
Yeah, I do the I like the 8-inch. Which ones? What about you?
I have the 8-inch Explorers.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Yeah.
I was actually going to try that new Summit boot they have in the 6-inch, but
that's a good looking boot.
It is a good looking boot, but I already knew that the 8-inch Hoffmans were the Explorers were like pretty phenomenal, because I had a pair and I put hundreds of miles on those things. And so I stuck with that. I stuck with like the tried and true for me. But if anybody's out there listening that is on the fence about what kind of boots to get, the Hoffmans will actually not cost quite as much as some of the other brands that are not as good as the Hoffman. It's a pretty interesting little concept. It doesn't happen very often.
Boot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to get those. I was planning to get those Summits just to wear them. You know, just around town kind of boot. And then I was like, oh, we got, the Hunt Expo in February. And unfortunately it got canceled. Heart was broken.
Yeah, that sucks, dude.
But dude, it's just a solid boot. Shout out to the Hoffman family there. I mean, if you the whole story behind them, right? The generations of that and how they started and everything. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Super cool.
Such a cool story too.
Like Jim Hoffman, he's forgotten more about boots than I'll ever know. He's a guru and he's passionate about them. And so I need to get a pair of insulated for wolf hunting this winter. But I just haven't bit the bullet yet, but I will. Just like my initial Ascent, I'm gonna buy one of those. But I'm kind of cheap, dude. I bought this pack a couple years ago that I've been using, and it was an expensive pack, and I need to, before I justify an initial Ascent. I have to figure out how to justify it to my wife first. So
I tell you what, if you don't try one on, then because if you put it on, you're done.
That's too late.
I was in the same.
I think I think Michael Batiste. I had Michael Batiste come up north and do this elk calling seminar a couple years ago, and he had one, and so I tried his on, and that was a bad idea, man.
Done deal. That is a phenomenal pack system, dude. It is. And dude, I gear junkie out. Like, this has been my best year in probably 10 years as far as purchases. So I've run the gamut of packs and boots, and when you find something, you are a
legitimate gear junkie, man. Yeah, I've noticed. I've watched. I'm like, damn, he's got some nice gear.
I'm horrible, but you know what? Okay, so comfort is a lot, right? And having things that allow you to focus on what you're doing, right? It sounds cliche, like but that's legitimately what the deal is. I'm not going to go skimp. If you go and get a pair of $50 boots or $100 boots, imagine the havoc that's going to be on your feet. I look at that in every element of it. And then you buy something for, $100 because you didn't want to spend $300. Well, then that $100 item lasts you, maybe a season, and you buy something, you spend the money and you get something for $300 and it lasts you 5-6 seasons. So, where's the better value over time? Yeah.
It really is.
Kind of my mindset.
I think and I don't want to quote the prices because I don't know exactly, but the Hoffman 8-inch Explorers are somewhere around that $400 mark, somewhere around there.
Just under. Yep, 483, I believe.
Is that what it is? 483 or 383 or somewhere around
383, there? Sorry.
Just under. I know just under $400. And the last time I bought one of those suckers lasted me for 5 seasons, and they would have lasted longer, but I kept drying them out at night around a campfire, and I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do that, and so. Yeah, totally. And I know that now, but I didn't know at the time. And so that's what I do. I'd take them off and set them by the fire and let them dry off. Otherwise I'd still be running those same ones. And I put my boots through hell. So, anyway, great gear is
$50 a year.
What's that?
That's less than $50 a year.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so worth it. The initial purchase stings, but it's worth it. So anyway, all right, buddy, let's keep in touch, and
absolutely.
I'd love to get you on again, and let's do this again. So
absolutely.
Cool.
My pleasure, man. It was a great time. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, for sure. And for folks in my audience, I'm gonna link all of Guy's stuff in the show notes, like his website, his podcast, and all that kind of stuff. I'd highly recommend you check it out. It's a great show.
Thanks, and the same on my end. I'll be pumping this one up on your end, man. I appreciate what you're doing, the message you're spreading, and then that you've had some guys on there that have a knowledge base that is impeccable, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Love
it. Good deal. All right, brother.
All right, brother.
Thanks a bunch.
We'll talk to you soon, man.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
You made it all the way to the end. thank you so much for tuning into the show. We sure appreciate your support. This is Jim Huntsman signing off and reminding you to check us out at Instagram at The Western Huntsman and on Facebook at The Western Huntsman. And you can also check out the website at thewesternhuntsman.com. Thanks again. We'll see you guys next time. Stay Western, and I'll see you on the mountain.